Learn to increase your value. Machiavelli. There is a man standing in a room full of powerful people. He has no title, no family name that opens doors. No inherited wealth. Yet when he speaks, everyone listens. When he moves, eyes follow. When he leaves, people notice the silence he left behind. That man understood something most people spend their entire lives searching for, the secret of perceived value. And the man who mapped this secret most ruthlessly, most honestly, and most brilliantly was Niccolò Machiavelli. He lived in 15th century Florence, surrounded by princes who rose and fell like tides, and he watched all of it with the cold, clear eyes of a surgeon. What he saw was this: the world does not reward the most virtuous. It does not reward the most talented. It rewards the most valuable. And value, true, commanding, undeniable value, is something you build deliberately. This video is your blueprint. Before we go further, do yourself one favor. Subscribe to this channel right now and tap that bell. Because everything we discuss here, Machiavelli, Stoicism, the philosophy of power and self-mastery, is exactly what this channel was built to give you. Now let us begin. The world does not owe you attention. Machiavelli opens The Prince with a truth so uncomfortable that most people spend decades running from it. The world, he writes, judges by results. Not by effort, not by intention, not by how hard you tried or how much you suffered along the way. By results. This is not cruelty. It is simply the architecture of reality. People are busy. They are distracted. They are managing their own fears, their own ambitions, their own silent wars. They have no time to notice you unless you give them a reason. The first step to becoming someone who cannot be ignored is accepting that invisibility is not something that happens to you, it is something you allow. Most people wait to be discovered. They do their work quietly, competently, faithfully, and they wait for someone to finally see them. Machiavelli would look at this strategy with something between pity and contempt. Waiting, he believed, is the most dangerous position a person can occupy. Because while you wait, time passes. Opportunities close. Other people, bolder people, louder people, people who understand the game, step into the space you left open. The world does not owe you attention. It never did, but it will give it to you if you understand how to claim it, know what you are worth before anyone else does. Before Machiavelli ever wrote about princes and power, he wrote about self-knowledge. You cannot project value you have not first located in yourself. This is the foundational error most people make. They seek validation before they have done the internal work of understanding what they actually bring to the world. Machiavelli observed that the princes who fell were almost always the ones who did not know themselves. They borrowed their confidence from their position. When the position was threatened, the confidence collapsed with it, but the rulers who survived, who adapted, who endured, were the ones who had a clear and honest inventory of their own capabilities. Not arrogance, not self-delusion, clear-eyed, honest, unflinching self-assessment. What are you genuinely excellent at? What do you know that few others know? What problem can you solve that the room cannot solve without you? These are not philosophical questions. These are strategic ones. Because the moment you can answer them with precision, you stop needing the room's approval to feel valuable. You walk in already knowing what you are worth. And that changes everything. The way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to disrespect. Value is first an internal architecture. Everything visible is built on top of it. Master one thing completely. Machiavelli was obsessed with mastery. He studied military history, political philosophy, human psychology, and statecraft with a depth that made him one of the most formidable minds of his era. But he was not scattered. He understood that the person who knows a little about everything is interesting at dinner parties and irrelevant everywhere else. The person who knows everything about one thing becomes indispensable. There is a quiet, enormous power in being the person in any room who understands something more deeply than everyone else present. It does not have to be a glamorous subject. It does not have to be prestigious. It has to be real, deep, and demonstrable. When you master something completely, when you have put in the hours, made the mistakes, developed the intuitions that cannot be faked, people feel it before you say a word. Mastery has a frequency. It broadcasts itself in how you hold your uncertainty, how you ask questions, how you respond to challenges in your domain without flinching. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should be a student of war above all else, not because war is noble, but because preparation is power. Your field is your war. Your mastery is your army. Build it before you need it, because the moment you need it is never the moment you have time to build it. Control your appearance relentlessly. Machiavelli was not concerned with authenticity in the modern sense. He was concerned with effectiveness. And he understood something that most people resist acknowledging. We are all being read constantly. Every time you walk into a room, people are making rapid, largely unconscious assessments. Are you someone worth knowing? Are you someone to take seriously? Are you someone whose time has value? These judgments are made before you speak. They are made before you are introduced. They are made from the clothes you chose this morning, the posture you carry, the expression on your face, the speed at which you move. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must carefully manage how he is perceived, because perception, once formed, is almost impossible to reverse. The clothes you wear are not vanity. They are communication. The way you carry your body is not arrogance. It is a declaration of how you expect to be treated. The energy you bring into a room is not performance. It is a choice, and most people make it unconsciously, which is why most people are invisible. Control your appearance, not to deceive, but to ensure that the way you are seen matches the value you actually carry. The world should not have to dig for evidence of your worth. You should wear it. Speak less than necessary. One of the most counterintuitive principles in Machiavelli's philosophy of power is restraint in speech. In a world that mistakes volume for substance, the person who speaks deliberately, who chooses each word with intention and allows silence to do its work, carries disproportionate weight. Machiavelli observed that weak rulers talked too much. They over-explained their decisions, seeking approval. They filled silence with justification because they were not confident in their own authority. Strong rulers spoke less. When they spoke, people listened, because silence had trained them to this. Principle applies directly to how you build your value in any environment. The person who offers an opinion on everything is taken seriously about nothing. The person who is selective, who waits, who observes, who speaks when they have something precise and relevant to offer, becomes someone the room leans toward. Every time you speak unnecessarily, you spend social currency. Every time you hold your silence when others expect you to fill it, you accumulate it. This does not mean becoming mysterious for the sake of performance. It means understanding that your voice, like any resource, has more power when it is not constantly available. Speak less, mean more. Let the room wonder what you are thinking. The wondering itself is a form of power. Never depend on one source of power. Machiavelli was relentless on this point. He watched prince after prince fall because they had built their power on a single foundation: one ally, one city's loyalty, one stream of income, one skill. When that foundation shifted, everything above it crumbled. He called this fortune, the unpredictable force of circumstances, and he argued that the wise person builds defenses against fortune not by trying to predict it, but by ensuring that no single loss can be total. In your own life, this translates to something urgent and practical. If your value exists only in one context, you are one context away from invisibility. If your income comes from one source, you are one decision away from collapse. If your confidence depends on one relationship's approval, you are one conversation away from losing yourself entirely. The person who cannot be ignored is not invulnerable. They are diversified. They have built value across multiple domains. They are known in more than one room. They have skills that cross-pollinate, networks that overlap, capabilities that compound. Machiavelli would say, "Make yourself so broadly difficult to replace that the removal of any one piece of you is an inconvenience rather than a catastrophe." This is not paranoia. This is architecture. Build alliances strategically, not emotionally. This is where Machiavelli becomes uncomfortable for most modern readers, because we have been taught that relationships are built on warmth, on shared feeling, on mutual affection. And they can be, but Machiavelli observed that the most durable alliances are built on mutual benefit, on the clear understanding that both parties gain from the relationship's continuation. He was not advocating coldness. He was advocating clarity. There is a very specific kind of loneliness that comes from surrounding yourself with people who like you but cannot help you grow. And there is a very specific kind of energy that comes from being in rooms where every person present is operating at a level that challenges you. People who increase your value are not always the people who make you feel comfortable. They are the people who have access to what you are building toward. The mentor who tells you hard truths. The colleague who is better than you at something and is willing to teach. The community that holds a standard you are still reaching for. Build your alliances with both warmth and intentionality. Love the people in your life genuinely. But also ask, honestly, whether the people closest to you are pulling you toward the version of yourself that cannot be ignored, or keeping you comfortable exactly where you are. Be indispensable, not just useful. There is a crucial distinction Machiavelli draws between the man who is useful and the man who is indispensable. The useful man can be replaced. He does his job well, he is reliable, he fulfills expectations, and when someone cheaper or more convenient comes along, he is let go without crisis. The indispensable man cannot be replaced without the system suffering. He has knowledge that exists nowhere else. He has relationships that are his alone. He has a way of seeing problems that the organization has built itself around. The indispensable man is not the hardest worker. He is the most strategically positioned. Machiavelli believed that the truly powerful person identifies the thing that no one else is doing and owns it completely, not just performs it, but becomes the living embodiment of it. What would break if you disappeared? What knowledge lives only in you? What role do you play that would create a crisis if the role became empty? If you cannot answer that question, you are useful. You are not yet indispensable. The distance between those two words is the distance between being overlooked and being impossible to ignore. Cross it deliberately, not by accident. Embrace difficulty as a signal, not a warning. One of the most practically powerful ideas in Machiavelli's work is his treatment of adversity. He did not view difficulty as a sign that you are on the wrong path. He viewed it as evidence that you are on a path worth taking. Easy paths, he argued, lead to soft destinations. The prince who inherits everything without struggle has no capability for the moment when everything is threatened. The prince who has survived betrayal, exile, poverty, failure, that prince has resources that cannot be taught in comfort. This is directly applicable to the way you build your value. Every skill that makes you extraordinary was difficult to acquire. Every relationship that elevated you required vulnerability or patience or courage. Every breakthrough in your career came after a moment when you nearly gave up and chose to continue. Difficulty is not the obstacle between you and your value. Difficulty is the process by which value is created. Machiavelli would look at your struggle and say, "This is not a detour. This is the road. Stay on it." The people who cannot be ignored did not arrive at that status by having easy lives. They arrived by being forged in fires that most people turned away from, and emerging changed. Reputation is your most valuable asset. Machiavelli dedicated significant analysis to reputation, and his conclusion was unambiguous. Your reputation is more powerful than any individual action you take. It precedes you into every room. It speaks when you are absent. It determines how your words are received, how your failures are interpreted, how your successes are attributed. A person with a strong reputation can make mistakes and be forgiven. A person with a damaged reputation can make brilliant decisions and be doubted. This is not fair. Machiavelli never promised fair, he promised accurate. And the accurate truth is that reputation is the compound interest of character demonstrated consistently over time. You build it not in the moments when people are watching closely, but in the moments when they are barely watching at all. The small commitments you keep, the integrity you maintain when it costs you something, the way you treat people who can do nothing for you. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must avoid being hated above all else. Being feared is manageable, being hated is fatal. In your life, this translates simply: be the person whose word means something. Be the person who shows up, be the person that others speak well of when you are not in the room. Your reputation is working for you or against you every single hour of every day. Manage it as deliberately as you manage anything else that matters. Develop emotional mastery. Machiavelli was fascinated by self-control, not the performance of calm, but the genuine internal architecture that allows a person to choose their response in moments when every instinct says react. He observed that the princes who were destroyed were almost always destroyed first internally. They became angry when anger was a weakness. They became desperate when desperation invited predators. They revealed their fear when fear gave their enemies a target. The person who has mastered their emotions is not cold, they are not detached. They feel everything, but they choose when and how that feeling expresses itself. In practical terms, this means building the capacity to sit in discomfort without immediately moving to escape it, to receive criticism without immediately defending. To be provoked without immediately responding. Every time you choose your response rather than simply having it, you demonstrate a quality that is genuinely rare and genuinely powerful. People trust the person who does not lose themselves under pressure. They follow the person who remains clear when everything around them is confusion. Emotional mastery is not something you perform. It is something you build, quietly and daily, in the small moments nobody is watching. And then it is visible in every moment that everyone is. Let your work speak first. Machiavelli was suspicious of those who talked about what they would do. He was interested only in what had been done. He believed that the most credible form of communication was accomplished work, results that spoke so clearly that the person behind them barely needed to explain themselves. There is something in modern culture that has confused sharing with achieving, announcing with accomplishing. We have been conditioned to narrate our ambitions before we have earned them, to position our potential before we have demonstrated it. Machiavelli would find this catastrophically backwards. He would say, let the work arrive first. Let it speak before you do. Let your results create the reputation, and then let your words carry the weight that reputation has built. This is not about silence or false modesty. It is about sequence. Do the thing. Do it completely. Do it better than expected. And then, when you speak about it, the words land differently, not as claims but as confirmations. The room already knows. You are simply acknowledging what everyone can see. That is a completely different relationship with power than the one most people are operating from. Build it from the foundation up. Work first. Words second. Reputation always. Position yourself where value is recognized. Machiavelli understood geography, not just of land but of social and professional terrain. A general who is brilliant but serving a prince who cannot use his brilliance is a general being wasted. A scholar who is profound but surrounded by people who do not value ideas is a scholar being buried. You cannot become undeniable in an environment that is structurally designed to ignore you. This is a hard truth, and it requires honest self-examination. Are you in a room where your particular form of value is visible? Are you in a community, a profession, an industry, a relationship where what you bring is actually being received? If the answer is no, Machiavelli would not advise patience. He would advise movement, not desperate, reactive movement, deliberate repositioning. The most valuable thing in the wrong context is still invisible. You are not obligated to spend your most productive years in environments that cannot see you. Find the rooms where your value is not just tolerated but needed. Move toward them with intention. And once you are there, demonstrate completely what you brought with you. Consistency is the final weapon. Everything Machiavelli wrote about power eventually returns to one theme. Consistency over time is the most devastating competitive advantage available to any human being. Not brilliance, not charisma, not fortune, consistency. The person who shows up at the same level every day, who maintains their standard when they are tired, when they are discouraged, when they are doubted, when the result is not yet visible, that person becomes something the world has no choice but to account for. Because time is honest, time strips away performance and reveals character. The person who was brilliant once is remembered briefly. The person who was excellent consistently is trusted completely. Machiavelli lived in a world of shifting alliances and sudden reversals, and the only thing he found truly reliable was the character of the individual who refused to be defined by circumstance. You cannot control what happens to you. You cannot always control the room you are in, the opportunities available, the people who hold the doors. But you can control what you bring every single day to the life you have. Do that with relentless, quiet, unbroken commitment. And watch what the world eventually has no choice but to give you in return. The person who cannot be ignored. Let us return to the man in the room. The one with no title, no inherited name, no borrowed power. He has built his value from the inside out, knows himself clearly, has mastered something deeply, carries himself with intention, speaks with precision, has made himself indispensable, has managed his reputation with care, has stayed consistent through every season of difficulty. He walks in, and the room shifts. Not because he demands it, because he has earned it, quietly, deliberately, over more time than anyone cared to watch. Machiavelli's final gift to us is this: power and value are not given. They are built, they are maintained, they are earned in the small invisible moments that accumulate into something undeniable. The world is full of people waiting to be seen. Be the person who makes themselves impossible to miss. Not through noise, not through performance, through the deep, unshakable architecture of who you have decided to become. That person, that version of you, cannot be ignored. Not by this world, not by anyone in it. If this reached something in you, if Machiavelli's words lit something up that had gone quiet, then you already know what this channel is about. Subscribe right now, tap the bell. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. We are building something here, a community of people who are done being invisible, done waiting to be chosen, done playing small in a world that rewards exactly this kind of thinking. The next video is already coming. Do not miss it.